All right, so today we're going to jump back into our fiction unit, and we're going to talk about writing about reading, which sounds kind of strange. It's almost like mashing up what I do and what Mrs. James does with you, but which is essentially kind of what we're doing. We're going to start writing about reading, and we're going to talk about Post-it notes a little bit, and I'm pretty sure that you guys have probably used Post-it notes in reading before. But I want to make sure that you understand why we use Post-it notes or why we even stop to write about what we're reading about, and how that can help us better understand our story. So first off, why do we write about reading? There are several reasons that we can write about reading. One of those things is just to remember things. Jotting helps us remember important details, and you'll hear me use the term jotting or to jot a lot, and that just means to write a quick thought. So anything that we're writing in our reader's notebook, or if we're writing things on sticky notes, it doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs. It doesn't even have to be a complete sentence. It's just something small, especially when it comes to remembering. If you've ever seen my desk or my computers, or really anything that I own, it's normally covered in sticky notes. So I use this one a lot. So just when something important happens in a story, just to jot it down so we remember it. So that way we can look back on it later and remember, oh yeah, that was really important. I bet this connects to something else. And that actually leads me right into the next thing, and that's making connections. You've probably heard about different types of connections you can have when reading a story. We'll focus on those again. So text to self, meaning making a connection to your own life. Text to text means making a connection to another story that you've read or another article, just any reading that you've done before. And then text to world means that you're making a connection between the story and something that's actually happening in our world. So maybe you write or you jot something down because you've made a connection, one of those connections. Sometimes maybe it's all three of those things that you're making a connection to. Another reason that we write things is to make predictions. We do this all the time when we're reading, even if we don't realize we're always doing it. It's whenever you think, ooh, I bet this happens after you've read a section, or, you know what, I bet this character does this, or I bet this is how the book ends. So it's just making some guesses about what's to come. And it's good to write these predictions down because sometimes we have those ideas, and then as we get deeper and deeper into the story and we're trying to, make sure that we're paying attention to everything that's important, we kind of forget. It's also kind of fun just to see, did my prediction pan out? Did it actually work? Was I right by the end? So keeping those predictions jotted down someplace always kind of helps with that. Whenever we want to discuss with others, we're going to do that quite a bit in this unit. We're going to read a book called Home of the Brave that we're going to start today. And you're going to have some time to discuss with your classmates about ideas that you have. So maybe you have a really good question or topic of discussion that you want to bring to your group when we start. You can jot it down so that way you don't forget it, because I know I do this sometimes where it's like, man, I knew there was something that I wanted to ask you or something that I wanted to bring up. And when we jot that down on a Post-it note or in our reader's notebook, then we don't have to remember. To write a question. We always have questions. Believe me, as long as I've been in fifth graders love to ask questions. So if you have a question about something, whether it's something that you want to ask me, whether it's something that you want to ask your group, maybe it's something that you don't even expect to have an answer right now, but you think, okay, this question's going to be answered later in the story. Write it down. It can be about the story. It can be about why the author chose to do something. It can be about maybe even a connection that you had. Any kind of question that pops into your head, it's always good to write those things down. And we write things to just understand things better. It's proven that it helps your brain understand information when you write it down. So just like taking notes helps your brain to remember the information, when we write those things down, it helps us to better understand it when we can see it in front of us. Some of us, it helps more than others. I am definitely a type of person that I have to see information written out in front of me. I've got to be able to see it. Not everybody is like that. Everybody has a different learning style or a way that they learn best. But definitely writing these things out, it helps stick in your brain. It helps us to understand it a little bit better. And it also helps it to connect with other people. When they can see our writing, they can kind of understand us a little bit better too. So where do we write all these things down? I've kind of already given you that answer. It's Post-it notes, right? We have a ton of Post-it notes in our class, Mrs. James and Mrs. Young's class. I'm sure you guys have lots and lots of Post-it notes too. And to everybody's surprise, they are not for making mini airplanes. They are actually for reading and writing to help us, whether it's, jotting ideas. You guys also have your reader's notebook, and I'm happy for you guys to write in there if the lines help you. But I think Post-it notes are good because it keeps it short. It doesn't make it so that we can write paragraph after paragraph after paragraph. It keeps our thoughts short, and it also helps when we take these to our groups We can even pass sticky notes around. We can move. They're just mobile. They're just easy. So what goes on a Post-it note? We just talked about the different categories that these things can go in, but there's even more to it. So a jot means just a few words or a thought. And again, you're going to hear me use the word jot a lot. Even a picture or a sketch. I know I've got some great artists in my classes. So if there's something that you just want to draw a picture, I know I've got some people that are into comics. Even if you wanted to draw like one frame of a comic for an idea that you had, I'm okay with that. Maybe it's a conversation that you had. Maybe you sit down with a partner and you're talking about a section of our book, Home of the Brave, and you really enjoyed your conversation and you thought it was really important to either share with the class or something to remember. You can write down a conversation back and forth. Maybe it's talking points. Maybe it's something that you want to take to your group. And so you want to bullet point a couple of things like, I definitely want to talk about this. I want to talk about this. Paragraphs are okay. I know some of us just think that way. It's better when we write in paragraphs, and I'm fine with that too. Or maybe it's just to add to old writing. Like I said, this is one of the things I love about Post-it notes. Maybe you make a prediction in the first chapter of a book, and then your prediction comes true in the 10th chapter. You can grab that sticky note from the beginning, put it in that 10th chapter and say, I was right. Or, you know what, I was right, but this happened, and add to your idea. So adding to old writing is a good thing to do with Post-it notes too. So what we are going to do is we're going to read the first section of Home of the Brave. Home of the Brave, when you guys actually get the physical books, you'll notice it's written a little bit different. Actually, let me pull this up so we can see it. So I'm going to scooch this over a little bit, and I'm going to pull up our chapter for today. And if you notice, it's very short. If I keep going, I've kind of got the book scanned. This is just one chapter, so 3 pages, and if you notice, it's not written like most books. It doesn't fill up the entire page. The paragraphs are very small, and in some cases, they're not even paragraphs. They're just sentences. So it's definitely something that we'll have to get used to, but it does make for really quick reads. But the thing that you're going to find out about this book is even though the chapters are very short, there is so much to dive into in each of these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of show you what that would look like to do your sticky notes. So if you see over here, I have all my sticky notes. I have a remember sticky note, a connection, a prediction, an understand, a question, and a discussion sticky note. So I'm going to read through this chapter with you. This is the very first chapter of Home of the Brave. And as I go, I'm going to add to my sticky notes things that are standing out to me, things that I want to add depending on what category. And then we'll read the second chapter after this, and then you guys are going to practice with your sticky notes. So let's start off. Our first chapter, our first section is called Snow. So I'm already going to make a prediction, and I'm just going to put snow involved. There's probably going to be some snow involved. Okay, just from the title. All right, let's keep on reading. When the flying boat returns to Earth at last, I open my eyes and gaze out the round window. What is all the white? I whisper. Where is all the world? Whoa, even in that first paragraph, there is a lot going on here. So the first question that I have is, what in the world is a flying boat? I know these are kind of small. Make them a little bit bigger. Okay. So a flying boat returns to Earth at last. Okay. I open my eyes and gaze out the round window. What is all the white? I whisper. Where is all the world? Okay, I'm going to keep going. The helping man greets me, and there are many lines and questions and pieces of paper. At last I follow him outside. We call that snow, he says. Isn't it beautiful? Do you like the cold? I want to say no. This cold is like claws on my skin. Ooh, I've got a connection, and this is a text to self connection, and that's the feeling of the cold on my skin. So I've definitely felt that before, where you walk outside and it almost hurts. The cold almost hurts your skin. So the fact that he's saying it's like claws on my skin, I can definitely make that connection. I'm also starting to understand here, he's talking about lines and questions and pieces of paper, and even kind of going back to the flying boat. I'm wondering, he's definitely not from this country, I don't think. I don't think the character that's talking, and to understand, I'm going to put point of view is first person. the main character is telling this story. So I'm going to make sure that I put that down. And then to remember, I don't think, let's see. So main character is not from this country. Okay, let's go on to the next page. I look around me. Dead grass pokes through the unkind blanket of white. Everywhere the snow sparkles with light, hard as high sun. I close my eyes. I try out my new English words. Oh, English words, so they're definitely not from this country. How can you live in this place called America? It burns your eyes. Okay, I have another question. Where is he from? He's never seen snow before. So that tells me it's probably a warmer place. Maybe, I'm not ready to guess yet. I don't think I'm ready to put a prediction in there, but let's keep on going. The man gives me a fat shirt and soft things like hands. Coat, he says. Gloves. Okay, I love that section. I love the language that our character uses. So in the discussion, I'm going to say how our character speaks. I'm going to put fat shirt and soft things like hands. Because I have a feeling the other people in my group are going to find that funny too, and so that's definitely something that I want to bring up. So the way that he speaks is interesting. Even if we go back at the beginning, he talks about the flying boat. I'm starting to think that the flying boat is probably an airplane. And he talks about the cold, claws on his skin, the unkind blanket of white snow. I love the way that he speaks. Okay, let's keep on going. He smiles. You'll get used to it, Keck. Okay, I'm putting this in the remember. Keck is our character. Okay, Keck. I am a tall boy like all my people. My arms stick out of the coat like lonely trees. My fingers cannot make the gloves work. I notice right here too, he's using like, so he's using a simile here. I shake my head. I say, this America is hard work. His laughter makes little clouds. I do have a question. I want to know who the helping man is. So that's our first section. Now, I had a lot of information from this one. This book, especially at the beginning, it's kind of getting used to reading, not just because of the way that the book is set up, but also because of how Keck speaks. So that's something to get used to. Now, I will say I don't expect you to have this many sticky notes just from one chapter each time. I just wanted to give you an example of what all of these things mean and where you're going to put all of these thoughts or where they kind of line up with. Now, that doesn't mean to say that you couldn't have put several things. We don't want to stop too often, because if we stop too often, then we'll kind of get lost in the story and we won't kind of understand the whole thing. And even after this, what I might do is I might reread this chapter just so that way I can hear all of it together, just to make sure that I've got everything in my brain. So let's actually do that. When the flying boat returns to Earth at last, I open my eyes and gaze out the round window. What is all the white? I whisper. Where is all the world? The helping man greets me, and there are many lines and questions and pieces of paper. At last I follow him outside. We call that snow, he says. Isn't it beautiful? Do you like the cold? I want to say no. This cold is like claws on my skin. I look around me. Dead grass pokes through the unkind blanket of white. Everywhere the snow sparkles with light, hard as high sun. I close my eyes. I try out my new English words. How can you live in this place called America? It burns your eyes. The man gives me a fat shirt and soft things like hands. Coat, he says. Gloves. He smiles. You'll get used to it, Keck. I am a tall boy like all my people. My arms stick out of the coat like lonely trees. My fingers cannot make the gloves work. I shake my head. I say, this America is hard work. His laughter makes little clouds. So what you guys are going to do now is you're going to read the next section of Home of the Brave. You're going to go on to the next page of this module, and you're going to make some sticky notes. You can either actually grab regular sticky notes, you can grab your reader's notebook and write some things. And as we go through the next section, I want you guys to make at least 2 sticky notes. It doesn't matter which section they would fit in. It can be a remember, it can be a connection, it can be a question, it can be prediction and understand, whatever it may be. But I want you to focus on 2 sticky notes, and then I'm going to explain what you're going to do with those thoughts after you are finished. So you're going to move on to the next page and listen to the next chapter.